Hi everybody, this is take two of the DSD Thunder Hangout. All hell went loose at this end. Sirens. Skip, welcome to DSD Thunder. As we were about to hear all about you before all hell broke loose at this end, just talk through sort of your background and how you became involved in DS, etc.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, I've been in retail for a long time, and about probably 25, 30 years or so. My sister and I owned our own computer store for a while in Minnesota, and then I moved to Fort Worth, and I bought the retail store we have now. So we've always been self-employed, doing my own thing, kind of looking for something to do, to feed the family, as you know. Just kind of, try to see what works out best for the least amount of effort for the most amount of return on your money, And yeah, it was kind of funny because my brother-in-law, who is in DSD, he actually sent me a link and said, "Hey, check this out." And this was like right after he got in, right when it started. And of course, he was supporting it right away. I think it started in August or September of 2013. And around September, he sent me an email and said, "You've got to check this out. This is amazing." I was like, okay, not something else. I don't need another thing to get into. And so I went ahead and joined just because he was going to get commission on it. And I figured, okay, I'll at that I paid my $20 so that he could get his $10 commission. And I figured I'll stay in for about 30, 60 days and I'll drop out because I just don't have time for this. Well, anyway, finally, my wife, she says, we paid $20. What's it going to hurt? Let's find out. Let's see if it works, And so we jumped in, and our first month, we profited over $1,300. And that's when I realized that, this is not just real, it's amazing. I have never made that much money in such little time, on anything that I had done in my physical retail side. So I figured, okay, this is obviously pretty cool. And since then, it's just been growing. We're having fun. My wife now does full-time FBA and Amazon work. She's on the Genesis side. Hang on, there's a coffee maker here grinding. It'll quit in a second. There it goes. There's a coffee maker behind me. I'm in a little coffee shop here in Minnesota. Anyway, so there was we joined in. My wife now does full-time FBA. I have a digital marketing agency that has come out of this that I got an idea from doing some things. So it's my DS side is kind of stable and not growing, but only because I have switched over to this other thing. But my son has taken over my account, and now he is putting himself through college, paying all of his tuition, and I'm kind of guiding him on the side. And it's pretty awesome. To be able to just like for instance, for my son to just be able to jump in and say, because of course, when he's going to college, he's saying, okay, I need money and all this. And I'm like, no, I'm going to teach you how to make money. I'm going to give you a tool. And so we hooked him up with DSD. And now he's paying his way through college, paying his own tuition, paying for all his incidentals and room and board and everything, all through DSD. And it's just really cool. Just the little things. Whether you need $200 a month or whether whether you're looking for $20,000 a month, doesn't make a difference. It's there for the taking, for the effort, and it really isn't that much effort. That's so cool. So that's my DSD story in a nutshell.
So where did the Freedom Fighters Friday come from then?
That came out of frustration of just answering a bunch of questions and, things that people were like, well, how come this? And why do we have to do this? And how come this isn't working? And why isn't the links working? And how come the list builder doesn't seem to be doing what it's supposed to be doing? And I finally said, okay, enough. Let's quit whining and let's just work our business. Let's just put on our business heads and get off our little horse of saying, because as people get stuck in DSD. In other words, they can't think outside of that box. They can't say, well, if this little piece of software isn't working, then I guess I don't have anything to do. I guess I'm going to have to stop listing. Instead of saying, look, okay, so it's down today. Well, You know, this is my business. I'm in charge. I'm in control, not Kevin and not Hitesh and not Kenya and not anybody, not Steve. You know, this is my business, so I'm going to make it happen. And just get in there and do what you got to do. It's all. I've been answering so many questions on the Freedom Fighter Facebook group, and I finally just said, you know what? There's a mindset here that needs to quit and needs to stop, and we need to get our brains into business and get our brains into thinking. I own what I'm doing. Take ownership of the process. Take ownership of your training. Take ownership of things. And I mean, for instance, it's some of my pet peeves are when people say, you know, I know the training says this, but I think it needs to be done this way or whatever. And it's like, well, do what you want to do. It's your business. You know, I mean, I understand that there's 3 different levels of shipping things. You know, we've got the minimal and the balanced and the balanced minimal, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, which one is right for me? It doesn't make any difference. Which one is right for your customer? Which one is right for your business? And you pick one and you choose and you go with it. And so that's kind of where it started. I mean, I hate to say that it started out of frustration, but it really did. Is a matter of saying, you know what, I think we need to change everybody's brain and get into thinking and start taking some responsibility. And I think they have. I mean, so I try to make it funny because I hate to get in there and say, you got to do this and you got to do that, you know. But to make it funny and say, look, let's have fun at this. But in the meantime, you don't know me and I don't know you, and I'm sitting in my car, so I get to yell at you all I want to, you know, and tell you, hey, you know, get your head out of your rear and let's get moving on this. But so yeah, that's where that all picked up.
I have to say that I really like the Freedom Fighters Friday blog. I started a blog of my own. It wasn't to do with DSD, but it was a personal blog. And I did 4 blogs to bring it up to date, and then I couldn't think of for the life of me what else to say. and I've listened, I've watched you, and I've watched other people that do video blogs, and I've spoken to people about it, and they say it's a good way of promoting yourself. I mean, obviously you stick to DSD, where maybe the mistake I made was sort of doing a personal blog. But I say, I brought 57 years up to date in 4 sort of 30-minute sessions, and then that were it. I didn't know what else to say other than boring people to death. So for the time being, I've scrapped that. But I do the occasional blog on DSD Thunder. But I have to say that I like your regular blog, and maybe I need to give a bit more thought as to what I do, because I come in sort of as and when necessary rather than religiously on a particular day. What's your views on that?
Oh, you definitely have to think of this. I mean, yeah. Like my own personal retail store blog and stuff like that. And they start expecting that. Once you start doing it on a regular basis, it's like the Freedom Fighter Friday. I did the first one, and I won't say I made the mistake of calling it Freedom Fighter Friday, but that's just what I ended up calling it, even though it was my first one. And now the very next thing is the next Friday, everybody was like, okay, it's Friday. Let's go. When's the next one? So it's kind of like an accidental committed myself to Fridays. But I definitely think, as you know, I mean, people look forward to that, and not that it's me or anything like that. It's just fun. I mean, we're just having a blast, and we get to do what we do, and so I think definitely consistency, because if not, they forget about you. Yeah.
There's no chance of them forgetting about me. I'll make sure of that. But we've got quite a few new people that have started within DSD Thunder in the last 2 weeks. From when you first started, I certainly know that it can be quite daunting when you first see all the training and you try and put things together and you're doing everything for the first time, which goes for any new job, to be honest. Right. What advice would you, what advice would you give people that have probably been in 2, 3, 4 months, 4 weeks, sorry, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I would definitely say you have joined, you've committed to a job, and if you haven't committed to a job, then why did you get in? I mean, obviously you wanted something, you were looking for money, you were looking for a lifestyle, or you were looking for an extra $50 a month, $200 a month. I mean, you know, what figure do you want? We can go up to whatever. But there's a reason that you click submit. There's a reason you paid your $20 to get in. What was that reason? I guess I would say don't forget that reason, because as soon as you forget that reason, you lose track of things. So maybe you're sitting there saying, man, I want to do this because I can see a better life for myself, or I'm tired of working for somebody else, or I just need an extra $500 a month to make my car payment or my house payment or whatever. Don't lose focus of that, because the moment you do, you're going to start getting lazy, and you're going to start getting on Facebook, and you start playing around, and you're going to, you know, another shiny light's going to come along, and somebody else is going to send you another email. You get emails all day long with something that you can pop $20 into. But if you don't lose focus of why you push the submit button, you're going to do fantastic. And then you've got to, especially as a self-employed person, it's very difficult. I won't say it's easy at all, because I have difficulty with this every single day. You know, my wife and I have to keep ourselves on track every single morning, because we're both self-employed. And so we've got to say, okay, you know, what are we doing to actually work our day today, instead of just getting up whenever you want to, which is cool. I mean, that's one of the perks, but you still have to put in your time, because if you don't, then you're not going to have the results you want. So sure, you can work for 30 minutes if you want to a day. You can work for 30 minutes a week if you want to. You can work for 40 hours a week. You can work for 80 hours a week. It doesn't make any difference. But your results are going to be you know, a result of how many hours you put in, what you do with it. So you've got to keep that in mind. If in other words, if you were shooting for an extra $500 a month, then what would that be in a job? What kind of a job do you have to get in your neighborhood to make that kind of money? How many hours do you have to put in? Well, that's what you got to do. If that's a 20-hour work week for you, then that's what you have to commit to. You have to say, okay, where do I put my 20 hours? You know, on the weekends, because I've got a full-time job Monday through Friday, so I got to figure that out. So I think the biggest thing is that people lose focus of why they push the submit button, and all of a sudden the next email comes along and they're off to the races, and you don't hear about them anymore. Or, you know, they were gung-ho, you know, like me in my first month, I made $1,300, and that was fantastic. Of course, Christmas came along, and the sales went down, because I started in October, so I got right in on the big ramp up. And then January hit, and you're going, what's going on? Oh, this doesn't work. Well, I guess I'll quit because it doesn't look like it's going to work. No, I mean, you've got to keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. What are you doing this for? Put that in front of you. It's like, you've listened to my previous Freedom Fighter Fridays. My goals are huge for me. I've actually created a movie, like I said, on my phone and on my computer, and my goals play out in a movie form, and I watch them every day. And I got a little notebook, and I rewrite my goals every day, because and my life has totally changed because of that, which is really cool. However, I do that not because of man, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire or something like that. It's not about that. It's that I am so easy to forget why I'm doing this. I'm the guy. I'm the one who has to remind myself, why do I get up in the morning? Why in the world do I have to have an alarm when I don't have to have an alarm? You know, I'm living the freedom lifestyle, so that's really cool. So I could sleep in if I wanted to, but I can't. I have to keep going, you know. So it was a long way of saying, but I come back full circle, is you know, don't ever forget why you got in the first place. I think you'll be great.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we've seem to be getting a lot of people at the moment who left DSD because there were other temptations out there, other get-rich-quick schemes floating around the internet. And now they've come back because those get-rich-quick schemes didn't work. Surprise, surprise. But I must admit, unlike you, this is very much a business for me. This is not a hobby. When I first joined DSD last February, my first aim was to make a profit. Mainly to prove to myself that the system worked. And when after that first month we made a profit, then I set myself a target or a goal And then having reached that, we set a next one and a next one. And the latest goal or target that we've reached and surpassed is having the money now to sell up and move to Portugal, which I know people on DSD Thunder are sick and tired of me talking about Portugal. But that was a goal, that was a target. We've reached that. Now we will set the next target, which is to make our life in Portugal very comfortable. But this is a business. I mean, if money is not going to come flowing to you unless you put what little time or as much time as you have available. You've got to put the time into it. If you're a single mom and you've only got a couple of hours, then use those couple of hours to build your business. If you're a bit like me, that you're retired and can put more hours in, then put those hours in. And one of the things that I found this week, which was quite annoying, but everybody goes through it, and I've been through it many times. I don't know why it bothered me this time, but you can tell when you're doing well with sales when you start to get more than your fair share of returns. And this week, where are we now? Thursday. Yeah, this week I've had 5 requests for a return, all done because either they didn't like it or the item turned up damaged or whatever. My PayPal account at the beginning of this week looked really, really healthy. And then after these 5 or 6 requests, my PayPal account, because obviously those transactions are frozen, looked dire, absolutely awful. And my first thought was, oh my God, what have I done? But then when you calm down and look at things, these things will happen. As you become more successful with regards to sales, you are going to get items come back. When I started 18 months ago, or whenever it was, I was getting a handful of sales a week. So therefore, my first return took about 4 to 6 weeks to appear. So you have to put it in perspective, I think. But it was quite a shock even then, even now, to see my PayPal account be looking quite healthy to suddenly almost down to 0. And I'm thinking, oh my God. But these things happen, I mean, I get people saying to me about, they're not getting sales. I don't know what you do with your team, but, I will look at item numbers or whatever. But I go through periods where, days you don't get any sales. But that's retail, isn't it? I mean, that's not my background, that's yours. But even I've worked that out over the last few months. That's retail. You go into a store or a shop. If you own a store or a shop, you're not going to have regular sales 12 months of the year. Is that right?
That's very right. Yeah, absolutely. There are certainly ups and downs. And the other thing too that I try to remind people in here is that, for instance, for my retail store, I have rent, and I've got electricity, and I've got my phone bill, and I have insurance, liability insurance. All these things combined equal about 40 to 45% of my gross income going to all of my base expenses. So stop complaining about the 10% eBay fee, because that's cheap. In perspective, I mean, we all get there, well, I can't, PayPal's charging me this, and eBay's charging me this, and I don't want to go to Amazon because Amazon's 15%. Oh my goodness, and I try to bring people into perspective and say, okay, then take all that and go buy yourself a retail store and find out what the real expenses are, because we're all getting off really cheap here. Yeah,
I would agree. I mean, I remember last month, which was our most successful month so far, we got hit with the eBay fee. And my first thought was, Jesus, that's high. But then I looked at the profit and thought, that's why it's high. But you're using their system, their facilities to make money. So, if you do it right, you will do very well. I mean, I love DSD. I mean, I've been in other MLMs prior to DSD. A year last Christmas, my wife and I sat down one day and worked out how much we were earning from these companies, and actually found, as we suspected, that we were making a huge loss. And it was at that time that somebody introduced us to DSD, and and I was very skeptical. It comes from being an ex-police officer. You look at things too closely, and you become very skeptical about anything. But I looked at DSD, wasn't particularly convinced, didn't read all the information correctly. In those days that they had, you probably remember, the video with Roger Langill, but then after that it gave details of all the training and how much the training was worth. What I didn't do, what I did do, was I scanned all that information, read it all, instead of actually reading it properly. And my first thought was, when I saw that certain training was $2,000 and $500 and this, that, and the other, and I just said, there is no way can I afford that, and forgot about it. And then a friend of mine came to me again and said, you really do need to have a look at this. And I said, well, I can't afford all the training. And she said, what, $20? So for $20, I had a look. First month, made a decent profit, proved the system worked, and we've not looked back since. Why others flit off and disappear to other adventures, we've stuck with it. And those that it's interesting, the ones that have stuck with it within DSD Thunder, and I'm assuming that's mirrored elsewhere with other groups, are the ones that have been the most successful. The ones that flit off, even if they don't physically leave DSD, but actually don't do anything and move on to other things, they're the ones obviously that struggle and then complain that it doesn't work. Do you find that as well with people sort of your side?
Yeah, definitely. I even have people in my downline that are still paying their $20, but I call them every once in a while and ask them, can I help you with anything? Can I guide you? They're not doing a single thing. They're still paying. And they were making money while they were in it. I'm like, okay, if you're making money, what? Show me the problem. Life happens. I get that, but you have to make time. You just have to. I mean, if this was, how I tell you what, let me back up and say, one of the things I think I did this in one of my Freedom Credit Fridays, one of my first ones, was the people who are most successful in any business, in the MLM, but especially with DSD, are the ones who are desperate, the ones who they don't have a job, and this is their only hope, or they're about to lose their home, or life is happening and they've got mounting medical bills. But the person who says, well, yeah, I got a good job and I'm doing okay, I would like to do better, so I think I'll just join this for $20. I wish them the best, and I hope they are, but they don't have the drive, and you've got to find the drive. You can find it. Yeah, you can be motivated. You can find it. But I think it goes to what you're saying is that we start making money, we get comfortable, and we back off, and we're like, okay, well, this is working well, and so I can afford to slow down a little bit. You can't. You can't stop.
No, I fully agree with you. I'm conscious of the time. I'd like to thank you very much for getting up. Just to remind us, UK, what time is left?
I'm sorry, you broke up?
Yeah, what time is it?
Oh, 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Right. It's about 2:30 over here, so really appreciate it. Looking forward to tomorrow's and hopefully you'll come back.
Yes. Yep.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
All right. See you later.